All right. We are back in Studio K, and I'm joined by Eric Mayson.
Hello, hello, hello.
Could you give us another little name and instrument introduction for you and your band?
I would love to. On the drums today, we have the wonderful, the incomparable Toby Ramaswamy, an alumni of the K of Radios.
Mm-hmm.
We have Trevor Peterson on the bass. We have Evan Slack joining us on a cuckoo guitar. We have Ashley Gold on vocals, Nathan Barlow on vocals, and Isabel Fajardo on vocals. And I'm Eric, and I played keys and sang.
Amazing. We just heard Nevermind, Ready Made Mind, and I just want to go all off of your newest release, Rerun.
Yes, indeed. Rerun.
Mm-hmm.
Just out in November of last year now.
Yeah, true. Last year, November 22nd. And before we get into the music, I am curious about the cover art for the album. If there's a story behind kind of what spurred that design, who created it for you?
The cover art was created by Isabel Fajardo, who was singing. And the story from my perspective was Isabel is an incredibly helpful person who likes to volunteer to do things for you if you're her friend. And she just hit me up and was like, do you want cover art? And here's cover art. And initially it had a bird on it, and I really like red-winged blackbirds, so we changed that. And that is pretty much that. Isabel, do you want to yell stuff about the design?
Well, you could pass the mic off if you like.
Hi, everyone. Big fan of Radio K. Thanks for having me. I would say that I think a big part of the art, other than the red-winged blackbird that you and I both love, is the two boxes that a bit symbolize the past and what we're stepping into. So it's, for me, the art and the rerun is an intersection of the two. And I feel like that was a really pithy way to visualize what rerun is to me.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I was also curious about how it connected with the title as well. So perfect way to double dip into my next question, which was also how you landed on the title for the album.
So, yes. So much of the music, or almost all of it, was started about 5 years ago as a small batch of like 1 minute tunes that I made right before a very large change in my life where I was going back to school, changing careers. And I had made the decision and then was hit by this kind of blast of inspiration, kind of realizing like, okay, I have 3 more weeks of basically existing as a professional musician before I change that and go back to school. And so all this music came out of me, and then it sat on my hard drive for a very long time. And I revisited it years later when I was sort of done with that process of schooling and returning to Minneapolis. And much of the shape of my life at the time, so this was like a year or two ago, was taking a very similar shape to my life as it did 10 years ago when I first started, 12 years ago when I first started trying to become a musician. And so it felt like kind of it was a return to this path that I had sort of walked before, but in a new way, much like, watching a previous episode of a TV show that maybe you liked when you were younger, but you're older, you've experienced more things, so you see new details. And then also returning to this batch of songs that I hadn't listened to or thought about in many years, and listening to the lyrics that I had written at the time, and some of which I still felt very strongly about, still agreed with, some of which I felt very differently about it, and then completing those songs. So the second verses of many of them are me recently kind of either agreeing with, synchronizing with, or disagreeing with, or offering a new perspective to me of the past. So, the idea of returning to something with a new perspective is rerun.
Yeah. And you keep anticipating my questions, because I was going to ask what the process of kind of evolutionizing those songs was, because I did know that they started out that way and then you kind of revisited them, as you said, but did you just kind of set some time apart and you were like, I'm gonna I'm going to sit with these and work with them, or was it ongoing more than that?
It was sort of ongoing. I think I had touched them about 2 years after making them for the first time. But actually, shout out Medium Zach, local producer, performer, DJ, who he was the one who initially was like, "You need to make all these into a record. There's a cohesion to them. They all came out within 10 or I made them all within 10 or 11 days of each other, kind of just night after night of making these little snippets. So they had a sort of relationship to each other, and I just felt like they were kind of, I couldn't leave them alone. I couldn't put them to bed and move on from it. So I really wanted to finish them. And working on them was exciting because I realized how differently I felt about so many of the things that I was singing about initially, or how much of maybe a couple of the stories that I was telling have evolved since then, and new things have happened in those sagas. So just kind of opened them up, got them off the hard drive, and slogged my way through them. Also, I think at the time, because they were these 1 minute little loops. I think if you listen to something for long enough on a loop, it's like impossible to add anything to it because you just hear the loop. So coming back to it, 4 or 5 years later, I could imagine more of what they could be than I was capable of when I first composed them. So went into the studio at River Rock Studios. Shout out Eric Bloomquist at River Rock Studios in Northeast Minneapolis, and Toby Ramaswamy and I finished them up.
Well, and both of you, Toby recorded drums, and then you recorded the entirety of everything else, correct?
Yep. Yeah. So Toby played drums on like 5 or 6 of the tunes, and I think everything else is me. So strings, bass, piano, production, guitar. Yep.
Yeah. And had you recorded a full-scale project like that yourself before, or was this something new for you?
This, I think, was fairly new. The past couple of records that I've done, I'm playing a lot of bass in keys on, but usually have some other folks in playing. So I think this is probably the closest I've gotten to everything being in-house, as it were. And it was almost all of it, except for the drums, was also recorded by me at my house.
Oh, wow.
Or my apartment at the time, and then mixed at the studio.
Sweet.
So it feels like an accomplishment there.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. Did you get to play with anything or experiment with any instruments in that process, since you kind of had full control over all of the aspects?
I got to use a lot of glockenspiel.
Oh, cool.
And every song has a shaker on it.
Sweet.
And I played a lot of cello, and I have this thing called an erhu, which is kind of like a Chinese violin that I don't really know how to play, but because I was by myself and didn't have to waste any engineer's time, I had unlimited takes to try to put that on every song too. So that was fun. Yeah.
Cool.
Basically things that I think engineers maybe wouldn't have patience for, like unlimited vocal takes, unlimited me trying to remember how to play cello. So recording at home definitely gives you the freedom to just spend all day trying to remember how to play an instrument.
Yeah, for sure. And throw a little curveball at you. If you had to describe the album using 3 colors, what would said colors be?
Yeah. Let's go with like bark brown, like an oaky brown, olive, and yellow.
Sweet. That's very holistic, I feel. Yeah. And of course, this wonderful group you have with you today, your rapport is amazing. It's so fun to just hear you guys riff with each other.
So much of what I am interested in as far as making music these days is just getting to spend time with people that I really enjoy. Now that I have a different job, so music isn't a full-time thing anymore. So the whole point of it is to make cool sounds and spend time with people that I enjoy. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And because you recorded the majority of all of the parts yourself, how did you feel transferring those to a live atmosphere, especially in incorporating all of these people kind of changed how the songs worked for you?
I was very nervous about presenting it to these folks, because I don't know, it's the first time other people had ever tried to play it, wasn't sure if it was going to work. When I first started trying to play it, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do it because I had written the piano parts and then the vocal parts, and I'd never attempted to play them together and realized it was extremely difficult. But I was very quickly assuaged of all that anxiety the first time I played it with these lovely people because they're incredible musicians, very supportive collaborators, and are always there to offer ideas and support whenever I'm feeling nervous about stuff. So it's been a breeze, surprisingly so. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's so lovely. And we were sort of talking about before how I feel like just Minneapolis generally, but also the music community specifically is so intertwined. Like I feel like everyone sort of knows everyone. And so I'd love to know kind of if there's anything special for you about how the music community here allows you to explore so many different avenues and meet people that allow you to work creatively.
Yeah. There's a lot of very special musical relationships that I feel like I have been honored to be a part of. I think my music career here started as a collaborator and remains that way mostly. So I started making music for dance classes and dance companies and theaters, and met a ton of collaborators there. It's such a collaborative effort, both of those art forms. And then I never really thought that I was, had what it took to be like a musician, actual musician. Then started playing with a bunch of people in the hip hop scene. Shout out Crunchy Kids, who's been in this studio many years ago playing off the record. And then from there became sort of, I think my main relationship with most of the musicians I know in Minneapolis is as someone who supports them. So I play keys, or I produce for them, or I write with them. And that was how I operated for a long time. And because it was something born out of like theater and then dance and then hip hop and then pop, I've collaborated with a ton of different people in a bunch of different genres, from experimental stuff to kind of straight ahead stuff. And I feel very honored to have such an eclectic background. And then in 2016, 2015, started putting out solo stuff. But even though it is under my name, it still does feel very much like a constant, ongoing collaboration from all the people that have been involved in it. Because that is the way that I enjoy operating the most in a creative space, is as somebody who's sharing and allowing other people to influence it. So,
yeah, no, that's so cool, and I just love being able to see and hear that when a group comes in. There's just something special that, I don't know, is so enjoyable. Okay, now, fun question.
Okay, I'm ready to have fun.
I'm so glad.
Commence fun.
And fun starts now.
2-1.
You get to build a 4-group bill, including your group. Who are you choosing and why? And where are you playing?
Oh.
It's tough.
A 4-group bill, including my group.
Yes.
So me and 3 other people.
Correct.
And do they have to be alive?
No. The world is your oyster, so
my
to speak.
Oyster. Okay. I am going to say I would love to be in the same room as Nina Simone. So Nina Simone, Domi and JD Beck, Brahms, and nope, that's not a musician. The last one's tough. James Taylor.
Whoa.
Wait, I said 4. That's only supposed to be 3.
Well,
Okay,
you get
James
4,
Taylor's
though.
getting the axe. Sorry,
no,
James.
James.
Sorry, JT.
Sorry, JT.
And then where are we playing? We're going to play at Honey. Rest in peace.
I like the variance that you've got going on. I'm
Cool.
I'm excited for when that eventually
That's going to
happens.
be really fun. Let's open Honey again.
Yeah. All right. Before you go, if you want to let our listeners know what's next, any shows, fun stuff coming up for you.
I am extremely excited to play at the Turf Club on January 30th with this lovely group of people. And 26 Bats, LaSalle, and Taba. And it will be a fun show, and it will also be a release of the cassette tape version of Rerun, which we'll be putting out. And yes, I am looking forward to seeing friendly faces there.
Perfect. Thank you so much for chatting.
Thank you for having me. This has been a blast.
Yeah, of course. You have been listening to Eric Mayson here on Off the Record at Radio K, Real College Radio.